There is so much hypocrisy in the Trump administration, it makes it almost impossible to call it all out, which is entirely the point. Donald Trump, Steve Bannon, Elon Musk, they want to flood the zone so we cannot keep up with every single story of their criminality and corruption. And the best example of that comes with New York City Mayor Eric Adams, who I feel like the media has completely moved on from, even though he essentially sold his soul and this city to Donald Trump in one of the most corrupt deals we have ever seen, with the complete weaponization of the DOJ. So much lawfare, in fact, that we saw Republicans even resign their post. But thankfully, this story is being brought into the limelight by a congressional hearing that Eric Adams attended, in which he was absolutely shredded by AOC in a clip that we're going to get to. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we get into this clip of AOC, I think it is important to shed a little context on this story from a few weeks ago. So for that, let's listen to Jen Psaki.
So I was just discussing with Congressman Dan Goldman, of course, the decision by Trump's DOJ to drop the case against New York City Mayor Eric Adams and how it prompted this massive wave of resignations. It, of course, started Thursday with the acting U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, who suggested that the decision to dismiss the charges amounted to a quid pro quo. Now, in response, acting Deputy Attorney General Emile Beauvais absurdly accused her of insubordination, of all things, and he made clear he'd find somebody to do the job that she wouldn't do. But that proved to be very difficult, because when it was passed along, at least 5 other prosecutors decided that they too would rather resign than dismiss the case. And by Friday afternoon, Emile Beauvais still did not have his guy when yet another prosecutor resigned. Hagan Scotton, who the congressman just mentioned, the assistant U.S. attorney in New York, handling the Adams case, abruptly quit in protest, bringing the total number of resignations to 7. And in his letter to Beauvais, he said, quote, "I expect you will eventually find someone who is enough of a fool or enough of a coward to file your motion, but it was never going to be me." Of course, Beauvais was never going to stop until he found his guy. But to do that, he basically had to hold an entire department hostage. He brought prosecutors into a room and ordered them to figure out who would file the dismissal motion, making clear that their jobs would depend on it, according to the Washington Post. So on Friday evening, the motion to dismiss finally emerged, signed under the threat of firing by 2 DOJ prosecutors.
There truly is too much happening all the time to keep up with all the stories. So I wanted that little refresher on what the Eric Adams situation, I guess that's the right word for it, is as we move forward into this clip, which we're going to check out right here.
Mayor Adams, on January 31st of 2025, your attorneys met with federal prosecutors regarding the charges of bribery, campaign finance fraud, and conspiracy against you. Were you aware of this meeting prior to its occurrence?
Congresswoman,
microphone, please.
I'm sorry. As I stated to your colleagues, and I'm going to continue to state because we're asking the same question over and over again.
This is a new question.
This case is in front of Judge Ho, and out of deference to
I
our
understand,
criminal justice
Mayor Adams.
process, I'm going to
Mayor Adams, as your
to the
counsel,
court.
I'm sure will inform you. The only permissible way to refuse to answer a question during a congressional proceeding such as this is by pleading the Fifth Amendment. Deference to the judge is not a permissible excuse for not answering questions during a congressional hearing. Is it your intention to plead the Fifth today?
Councilwoman, you said the only way that you can't answer a question is to plead the Fifth. I am answering your question. I'm answering your question directly. That
you are not, Mayor Adams.
Okay, I believe I am.
I will ask it again. Were you aware of the meeting between your attorneys and federal prosecutors on January 31st? Answering this question is a yes or a no.
And I'm going to answer it again. Out of deference to Judge Ho with this case.
That is not an answer, Mayor Adams.
He is going to deal with the outcome of the case.
Mayor Adams, is it your intention to not comply with these questions?
As I stated, I'm answering your questions, and what you're doing let's be clear on. You're asking me about communications between my attorney and I. And I don't think that is appropriate to be asking a question between my attorney and I, because we are in a country of law and order.
I understand.
And your
So, Mayor
relationship
Adams,
and
who
communications
is
with
your
your attorney should be respected.
Who is your attorney?
Alex Spiro.
Alex Spiro, thank you. Now, Mayor Adams, have your attorneys ever met with city officials? That is not covered. You know, I'm not asking about your conversations with your attorneys. Have your attorneys met with city officials, New York City officials?
Any communication or activity between my attorney
So yes or
and I
no?
is
Have
up to
your
attorney
have
and
your
I. You can
personal
reach out
attorneys
to,
met with New York City officials?
Alex Spiro, my attorney, to deal with those communications.
Mayor Adams, in this meeting, did anyone representing you, including perhaps Mr. Spiro, agree or allude to any arrangement with the Trump administration that would involve changing city policies in exchange to reconsideration of the charges brought against you?
You say in this meeting? Can you be clear?
In the January
on
31st meeting.
Again, there was never any agreement, never any quid pro quo. And
That's
I
not what
did
I'm
nothing
asking.
wrong. Never any agreement, never any quid pro quo.
Was there an
and
allusion to a shift
that
in
I've
New York
done
City
wrong.
policy?
Gentlelady's time's expired. And I just want to remind her, Mayor Adams is here voluntarily, and we appreciate that. The topic of the hearing is about our illegal alien problem and the drain on the cities and what the solution is. So, Chair now recognize Mr. McGuire from Virginia.
Mayor Adams, are you aware that the former acting U.S. Attorney Danielle Sassoon was present at the January 31st meeting between your lawyers and federal prosecutors?
As I stated, and you, Congresswoman, you appear to want to ask the question over and over again, and so I could only
No,
give
these
you
are
the
very different
appropriate question
questions,
over and
Mayor
over again. That this
Okay,
case
I
is
understand.
going to
Mayor
Judge
Adams, are
Ho,
you not
and
answering
Joe
this
Ho
question because you believe you will incriminate
be able to respond
yourself?
to the movement
I
of this
understand.
case. In
Mr. Chairman, I
deference to
would
him,
like
I
to
would like
submit
have him
to
handle
the
it.
congressional record Danielle Sassoon's resignation letter from the U.S. Attorney.
Without objections ordered.
Thank you so much. In her letter, the former acting U.S. Attorney, a registered Republican, a former clerk for Antonin Scalia, was appointed by President Trump to serve as acting U.S. Attorney, was present at the January 31st meeting between Mayor Adams' attorneys and federal prosecutors. After that meeting with attorneys, the acting U.S. Attorney resigned rather than dismiss the charges against Mayor Adams. In her letter, which I have just submitted to the congressional record, Ms. Sassoon stated that during that January 31st meeting, Mayor Adams' attorneys, quote, repeatedly urged what amounted to a quid pro quo, describing it as a, quote, improper offer of immigration enforcement assistance in exchange for a dismissal of his case.
Remember when Donald Trump cried lawfare at President Biden, allowing Merrick Garland to far too slowly investigate his crimes? And when Donald Trump obstructed those investigations or allowed his lackey judges to get in the way of them, what did President Biden do? Not enough. What did Merrick Garland do? Not enough. You could not ever accuse those two of lawfare or weaponization at the level of Donald Trump or in any way on any planet close to Donald Trump, because it just didn't happen. But what is happening is this corruption. The mayor of New York is essentially in Donald Trump's pocket, breaking state and city laws to serve his immigration plan that is failing, by the way, and the media doesn't want to pay attention to it. It is absolutely crazy. And it's the reason it wasn't just AOC calling it out. Robert Garcia did as well.
Now, this is serious, and Republican prosecutors agree that the evidence against you is ironclad, yet Trump's DOJ moved to drop these charges. Now, I just want to be just really clear and show this here. Now, look at how the Trump-appointed acting U.S. attorney who was prosecuting you described it. Because the law does not support a dismissal, and because I am confident that Adams committed the crimes with which he is charged, I cannot agree to seek a dismissal. Now, this is a conservative Republican who resigned when Donald Trump pressured her to drop the charges. And we know the Trump administration demanded that the charges be dropped. And this is key. They will be able to refile them against you, Mr. Mayor, at any time. I think, personally, that's why you sat next to the architect of family separation on Fox and Friends. Now, Tom Homan sat next to you and said the following, and I quote, "Getting on Rikers Island is step one. We're working on some other things that we don't really want to talk about on open air because the city council will be putting roadblocks up on us. The mayor and me have a commitment to several other things." Now, this was you, of course, and Mr. Homan, the architect of family separation. This is also incredibly concerning, Mr. Mayor. You sat next to him, you smiled, you badmouthed your own city council. Now, Mr. Mayor, we have a right to know if the Trump administration has actually coerced you into agreeing to anything. And Mayor Adams, I also want to be very clear. Are you selling out New Yorkers to save yourself from prosecution?
There's no deal, no quid pro quo, and I did nothing wrong. And anything dealing with this case out of deference to Judge Ho, who's now addressing it, I'm going to refer to his actions.
Well, Mr. Mayor, it appears, to me at least, that you are selling New Yorkers out. It appears that you are working with Tom Homan, who is clearly focused on family separation and deportations and harming New Yorkers and others across the country. Now, every other mayor on this panel is pursuing legal and effective policies that benefit our residents and their communities. Their policies actually uphold public safety. Now, I personally agree with the majority of New Yorkers and think, Mr. Mayor, that you should resign. You should do the right thing. You should step down and resign today.
Again, the fact that this story isn't getting really any attention anymore, one, is an indictment of the failures of the media. Two, shows the level of corruption in the Trump White House. And three, I don't even know, how are we not focusing on this more? This is a danger to millions of New Yorkers. This is a disgrace for justice in America. And this is the story of the Trump presidency. Corruption for the sake of intimidation and to endanger Americans. That is what it is all about. He will push every lever of power possible to carry out his illegal plan and to serve his rich friends, but still not a word, not a step, not an action to make your groceries cheaper. What is Donald Trump focusing on? Himself. All the time and always. That's it. And that is what we will be calling out every single day on the show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, you can leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.